somebody you're with is in a sympathetic state, a key word is curiosity.
Yes.
If you're busy telling people what's what and how it is, right, all you're doing is fostering a resistance and probably a resentment.
Welcome to the Core Insights podcast, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of human potential. Here at Core Insights, we're peeling back the layers of human experience to reveal core truths that drive personal growth, authentic living, and peak performance. Each episode will be joined by members of our exceptional Core Elements team, seasoned therapists and coaches who are passionate about helping you unlock your full potential. We're not just sharing theories from textbooks. We're sharing real-world wisdom gained from years of practice, cutting-edge training, and most importantly, the profound experience of working with clients just like you. Let's begin this journey together. Welcome to Core Insights, where transformation starts at the core. Okay, welcome to the Core Insights podcast. My dear friend and colleague, Rich, we discuss one of our favorite, I think, like I said, overview most important topics that really oversees or underlies all of the therapy techniques that we utilize in our offices. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay. So let's start with the containers that you use with your groups back in the day. Maybe you still use them?
Yeah. So whenever I'm doing any kind of education, there are 3 jars that I want to fill with information. The first jar is, what is it? What are we talking about?
Good.
Second jar is, how does it impact me?
Yep.
Right. So me specifically, how do I experience that concept?
Yeah.
And thirdly, what can I do about it? Right. And there are all kinds of interventions and strategies we can employ to, regulate the negative impacts of whatever it is that we're talking about. So today we are talking about arousal states. I think, we've been primed most recently by reading a book about, as part of a larger learning, Polyvagal Theory in practice. So that was kind of the thing that precipitated this conversation.
Yep.
So what we learned about it, what we're going to share about that.
It's a great book if anyone wants to read it. Anything by Deb Dana, I think, is a useful podcast and or book and or whatever she has to say is useful. And then she, of course, is the therapist that utilizes Stephen Porges' work. And he's the scientist behind the work.
Yeah.
So Stephen Porges is the polyvagal theorist. Yeah. And then she's the therapist that's kind of taken his work and
admittedly, like polyvagal language is new for me, right? So I've always been aware of describing arousal states, and most often talking about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, right? So the sympathetic nervous system is how we respond to threat, and it puts us into a arousal state that gives us energy and attention to address the emerging issue.
Yes.
Looking at it from a polyvagal perspective, it just, for me, even after 20 plus years of doing this, expanded my understanding, and it does offer a slightly different perspective on disparate topics we sometimes hear about, right? Okay. I really see the connection between anxiety and depression. There's a lot of explanatory power in polyvagal theory and sort of how we're moving into shutdown, out of a state of angst or
true.
And so, even for me, it's it's altered the language with which I describe these different arousal states.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, good. So arousal means sympathetic and parasympathetic, and the autonomic nervous system essentially states.
Yeah. So the degree to which you are activated, right? So I always look at it people often snicker when you say arousal.
Yeah, they think sexual arousal probably.
That one connotation. But it's the emergence of an energetic state. Yeah. And that energetic state is required for something, right? So sometimes we have social energy, right? As we talk about in polyvagal, though, that's more of a tend and befriend, and it's less anxious, and it's very excitatory and engaging.
Yes.
But sometimes our arousal states, they're driven by our stress hormones like cortisol and
norepinephrine and all those things, adrenaline, for sure. And they're based on often past experiences.
Yep. So your body is reacting to some associated learning. I mean, there are things that obviously everybody kind of reacts to.
Yeah, like a lion comes in the room right now. And
absolutely. Predators for sure, like sharp teeth and claws. Yeah. Also things that are small that move funny, like spiders and centipedes, like that often, or snakes.
Yeah, true.
Right?
True.
So there's an instinctual kind of aversion to something that's odd.
I told this story in our staff meeting the other day. There's even things that social. So I was at a meeting not very long ago at a business meeting. I had to introduce myself. And this isn't, something I could do 1,000 times. For some reason, in that context, I literally was like, and I'm sitting there waiting for it to come my turn, because of course you're waiting for it to go around the table, and the closer it gets to you, the more my heart is pounding out of my chest. And I'm going, okay, hey heart, do my parts work. Hey heart, I feel you. Hey lungs, it's okay. Trying to make space for these, but I'm recognizing my sympathetic nervous system is engaged, like highly engaged in that moment, and I'm witnessing it in real time. There's no spiders, there's no sharp teeth, there's no snakes. It's just me being like, and my frontal lobes are like, this is ridiculous. There's no threat in the room, other than all the eyes peering at me, of course.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Which is the threat. But it's interesting to be aware of it in real time. So if I can normalize for people that are listening, it's going to happen without your permission. Much as you know about this topic, much as we know about this topic, I know a lot about this topic. And I literally was in a room recently, and I was like having a feeling of a sympathetic system in full on fight or flight. Like my body was like, run, get out, like flee. And I was able to talk my way through it, I'm sure with a very squeaky voice and, veins popping and sweating and all the things happening in real time.
Yeah.
So there's situations that just kick into gear.
I am so familiar with situations like that. But then also, and this is where that polyvagal kind of theory and the practice and understanding these mechanisms of arousal and understanding their kind of like a graduated thing, right? So like you in that moment, you felt a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to present yourself well, you want to give a good impression. So that's enough pressure. But then you add all those eyeballs looking at you, and you've just amped it up.
Totally.
Right. And then maybe like in my case last week, your cat's missing. Well, that amps it up another level. And you might not in that context think that that's contributing to your arousal states. Yeah. But there's so many different things in your life that, you may not be paying exact attention to, but your brain's kind of processing all that stuff in the background. Yeah. So then it's your as we get into like window of tolerance now, your ability to manage the pressure can become diminished. Yes. Depending on circumstances. Yeah. So just to back up just a little bit. So if we look at our nervous system, it's a biological system that's wired into us from like in utero. So it's a system that's organized around, are we safe, unsafe, from the moment where whatever you think life begins. That's essentially when it starts to become. So even in utero, the fetus, the embryo that's in there is starting to assess safe, unsafe. So, and then we're born with this experience, and then the environment continues to mold and shape this experience in our body. So a lot of it is below conscious level. As much as I was aware of that moment in time, my body was having a reaction that I'm aware of, but I'm like it's below my awareness as to why it's doing that. So I just think, again, when you're listening to this podcast, say compassion for self when there's a reaction your body's having, and for others. Yes. Right? This is for me, lots of my office with relationships. Yeah. So we could talk about lots of examples, what we have with our clients as to how we walk them through situations when they are in a sympathetic arousal state or a dorsal state, and then how to make space for themselves and others in those states. Yeah. Yeah, right. And I think that there's a good point there that are like, in utero or like our early life experience, like we're going to talk about vagal toning a lot, and I often use vagal toning as a way of like interventions. What can we do now to a system that is particularly sensitive to arousal states? But those, whether it's environmental pressures and early lived experience that kind of sets up your nervous system, right? So if there's a lot of adverse experiences as a child has, they are in that arousal state more frequently, and that sets the tone. Yeah, because they're programmed essentially for more threat, to assess for more threat. And so then, or someone coming back from, let's say a war experience, they've been programmed to assess for threat, literally. And then, so they come on a car backfires and they have an autonomic response as if it's gunfire, right? We call that PTSD, for example. Yep. It's all in the same system. And so, so having some empathy for whenever, and then we can draw on a bunch of other resources too, like those early life experiences that when a person is overreacting, it may not be a character issue. It may not be a situational issue. It's like, and if you can, have compassion for others and yourself, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah. Well, so let's describe the 3 states, but I love Deb Dana's quote, that state perceived story, because we want to talk about story. About what's happening in real time, and you said this and I experienced this, and you got to pause and go back into what state am I in, what state is the person I'm talking to in. So let's describe the 3 states. So Deb Dana has a really good visual, she's a ladder visual that I really think is useful, that you can look up on any
device, Google, Safari, whatever you use, ChatGPT probably these days. Middle being sympathetic, which people have mostly heard about, that fight or flight system. People kind of know what that is, that middle system. Top being ventral, and the bottom of the ladder being dorsal.
Yeah.
So I'll start with dorsal. I'll start with the very bottom system.
I prefer to start with
top?
Sympathetic.
Okay. Oh, middle. Okay.
And the reason I say that is like if I consider myself, and I'm pretty adept at regulating my emotion, and being intentional about how I'm living, what I'm experiencing. If I'm feeling something big, I look right.
Yeah.
I investigate. I'm not shy.
Notice. Yeah.
Right. But as I and being adept at doing this and having all these skills and all these tactics and tools available to me, I find that most of the time I'm in a sympathetic state.
Which is interesting.
I have a lot of things to pay attention to, right? Between, like family and home and pets and
spiders and snakes,
and then
traffic.
Work, and so there's lots of stuff to pay attention to. So I'm always in a bit of an arousal state, right? And working towards a state of relaxation is always the effort.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
So that sympathetic state, it's not like I'm anxious all the time.
Yeah,
I'm just attentive.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah.
Right. But as I accumulate more and more things to pay attention to, right,
I'm
or
more
that
aroused.
demand my attention, then more energy is required, right? And so that's when I start to move into that sympathetic or a greater sympathetic, more exaggerated response.
Yeah.
Right. So as the pressures start to accumulate, I feel that arousal. And in that, then the sort of my midbrain, the limbic system that is responsible for those different emotional states or energetic states, gets more energy and oxygen. And my frontal lobes, where this is my executive part of my brain, where I plan and execute my choices.
Yep.
Right. That gets less oxygen. And you can see it in neuroimaging that it gets less oxygen and blood flow, so it's kind of shutting down. And that emotional brain, and then we become more reactive than responsive, which is then, I think, ultimately going to create a greater sympathetic response. Because as we become reactive, we're exciting ourselves further.
Yeah. So it's just such an important topic you just brought up, such an important point for so many things. I can think of the parenting moments. I can think of thousands of parenting, or like watching couples in my office. But just think of a time, listeners, when you've had a moment of, you didn't have lunch that day, or your lunch was late, or the kids are busy, or things at work aren't going great, and second, just add on traffic and bills and animals, and you just whatever's your life in your life.
Yeah.
Compile those things together. So now you're vibrating at the sympathetic, like energetic level. That's pretty sympathetic. And you come in the door and someone asks you a question, or someone spills the milk, to use the old example, right? I mean, my normal ventral vagal system would be like, no big deal. But in that moment, it's too much for my brain.
Yeah.
Like I can think of many parenting moments where I've just been like bombarded with all those things, and you're like, and my kid, we practice ventral vagal breathing for my whole life. So my kids, mommy need to take a breath. Mommy needs 5 breaths. I'm like, yes, mommy needs 5 breaths.
Yeah.
Right. So it's such an important topic to bring up. That's not a fault. It's a default. It's not because you're a bad person or because you're intentionally acting out. It's a default of overwhelmed. My system is flooded, and therefore I'm sit in sympathetic state, and I'm going to then, because my frontal lobes are offline, to use Dan Siegel's kind of words, right? I don't have very many neurons, to socially engage and have a good decision-making model and good communication skills. Those neurons are being sucked of oxygen and the chemicals they need.
Oh, well, and we can't just talk about those arousal states without also acknowledging, okay, so when I'm in that state, when I have that particular cue or that particular thing that's winding me up this way, then of course there's certain intuitions that start to take over,
of course,
right? And now so
your brain
it's shaping behavior, and this is like the story that follows that state.
Yeah.
It's like however that state is expressing itself, right? The brain is now selecting for approaches to meet that demand.
Yes. And you can look at what is your default, right?
Yeah.
So in that state, you're doing something and you spill your coffee or you spill your tea and you're like, damn it, husband, or damn it, kid, or damn it, dog. And which has nothing to do with them. So blame is maybe a, a coping mechanism that you use.
Yeah. And not to diverge too far from what we're talking about, but that, like, where does that blame come from?
Yeah.
Well, we learned early that when there's arousal states like this, someone's going to get in trouble. And so my instinct is to like absolve myself of responsibility Right?
Which feels like a discharge of the emotion. It feels like getting rid of that heightened arousal state. Does it work? No. But it's, again, recognizing these patterns in yourself as you're listening to this that we can all relate to, self included.
Right.
I've got thousands of examples like that.
Yeah, so it's important to recognize that these arousal states exist, but they aren't the answer.
Yeah.
Right. But they are a very important part of all of this.
To make it make sense.
This is happening, and like you said earlier, I mean, that sympathetic arousal state is fundamental to our survival.
Yes, we're born with it.
Right? No, it's not a as they say, it's not a quirk of the system. It's a feature. This is what we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Our brain is a survival organ.
Yeah.
And so, but then that's where we can learn to take responsibility for not letting it get overwhelmed as much as we can. Right? Life happens.
What is Stephen's quote? He talks about. For the treatment, like safety is literally the treatment. Stephen Porges' quote, that your system is assessing, am I safe, am I unsafe, all the time. And so, we're looking at that, we're trying to create safety in our office. But if you're looking at that with your children or your partner or your coworker, it's not content, it's safety. If I can create an atmosphere of safety. So self-included, right? So if you're having a moment where you're being hyper aroused from all the things that are happening in your life, what for you are the things that will create safety for you? Is it 5 breaths? We'll talk about some interventions that we teach our clients often. So the middle of the bladder is sympathetic system. That's that fight or flight system. Yeah. And again, we all have a bit of a default. Like, we're not one thing all the time. I know I'm generally more of a fleer. What are you in that middle state?
Fixer, I think. Whatever.
So action taker.
I take action at it.
Yeah.
I don't
Depends what it is. I can take action.
I sometimes withdraw. Sometimes withdraw if I feel too overwhelmed and I just can't right now.
Yeah, so more dorsal, kind of starting to go towards the bottom. Yeah, I think it's interesting to look at situations in your past to go, in that situation, what was my go-to response? I can think of a few. Like, I think of hiking and seeing a bear, and I was like fleer, like I'm gonna hide is my first response. Or like we did back in school days, we did some exercises where I definitely was a fleer. But then I think of my jail days when there was like an emergency, like a stabbing or something or a hanging, I'm an action taker. So it depends on the situation, I think, for me, from a fleer or an action taker. Yeah. Oh,
and there's a lot of calculus that goes into that, and there's like permission structures and stuff in there too, right? Mm-hmm. But that's I'm going to get bogged down in bad examples. Okay, so sympathetic nervous system. So this is where we go into an arousal state in response to environmental cues.
That your body perceives as taste,
and it gives us vigilance. It gives us the ability to sort of like attend to and address, and the energy to address those things.
Yeah.
Should we talk a little bit about ventral?
Sure. Ventral, we all like ventral.
Yeah, right.
That's where we want to hang out most of the time.
and we like it, but I don't think it's necessarily ideal.
Yeah.
But it's nice to be in.
Yes, you need them all. Like, I don't want to there's no demons here. We need them all. They're all important.
But getting yourself into that ventral. So in other work of the ventral vagal system, I can't speak to the anatomy of it. I know Deb Dana talks a lot about these cranial nerves that goes in the front of the body. This is like in your face and facial nerves and stuff like that. It is about social engagement. Yeah. In other works, I've heard it referred to as tend and befriend.
Yes.
Right? And there are other hormonal systems involved in that too.
Yeah,
like
rest and digest as well.
Yeah, rest and digest, and that's also the parasympathetic nervous system.
Exactly.
Right? So for those people following along, sympathetic is like excitatory, and parasympathetic is relaxing.
Yes. Yeah.
And so part of that ventral function, that tend and befriend, social engagement, is that.
Yeah.
Right. It is a more comfortable place to be. It is a place where you feel connected.
Yeah. Think of a relaxed conversation.
And having meaning.
So hanging out in the backyard with your kids in a relaxed state, or having a coffee with a friend, or going on on an outing with someone that feels relaxed. Those are kind of those ventral states. And so so they're useful to be there for. I think curiosity is really great there. Mm-hmm. You have more access to curiosity, more access to compassion, more access to adaptability, to be able to perceive from different angles because you're less threatened. So it's a useful state to start to perceive from a wider angle.
Yep.
And so when you're thinking about communication, again with self and others, partners and coworkers, example, to try to move towards that state for those reasons.
And you can tell you're in it, like for the listeners, they know they're in it because you're able to listen. Yeah. Undefensively.
Yes.
You're not formulating a response or a counter argument.
Yeah.
right? If you're doing that, you're in a sympathetic state.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think most of the time you're sympathetic
on guard, right?
when you're talking to somebody, especially if it's your partner and they're pissing you off. You're mostly in sympathetic states, rebuttaling before they're done speaking, which means you're not listening.
Right.
Yeah. So a really good interviewer, right? If you can be a really good interviewer of the situation with whoever you're with, you're going to challenge yourself to be more ventral by being really curious of what they're saying and paying attention to just what's happening in the moment. Yeah. And let's go down the ladder. So that's the top of the ladder.
Yep.
Middle is sympathetic. Bottom of the ladder is dorsal.
And so how Dana describes that is like, this is when it's life or death and the body shuts down.
Yeah.
And so a way of looking at that is that you're accumulating stressor. So your sympathetic nervous system is being taxed. And as you keep piling those things on, you start to get overwhelmed. And there's stress overload is a thing.
It is a thing.
We get to a point where we are debilitated by what we're attending to. And we feel it's insurmountable. And this is where that dorsal vagal system enters and we shut down.
Yeah. As a means of survival. Again, it's a way to survive. It's adaptive for survival. It becomes maladaptive sometimes in relationships when we don't know what's happening. But think of a situation again where you're flooded, your system is flooded in that sympathetic space and it's getting too flooded. It makes sense to shut down, to survive, to go under the covers and hide, metaphorically.
In the Lisa Feldman Barrett's How Emotions Are Made, she argues that both like that the anxiety that we find in the sympathetic nervous system and then the shutdown we find in the dorsal vagal are both error avoidance tactics, right? So with anxiety, you imagine every possibility in an effort to avoid making a mistake.
Yeah, true.
And in depression, you stop doing stuff.
Yeah, you hide.
in an effort to not make further errors.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah,
so that's shut down. Right?
Yeah, yeah. And you can see then, again, when someone's shut down, when you're looking at someone that's shutting down, to pause and have compassion and go, oh, they went through that stage of sympathetic and now they're going through that stage of dorsal, which is collapse. And so, and even for self, when you're starting to get that place of like collapse of like, what do I need to do to be in that state for a second or longer? And how long is it safe for you to be there? How long do you need for your body to recover to be there? Like, how is that state useful for you and your relationships? It's not a rest and digest. No. It's a collapse. I'm under the covers. I'm hiding. I'm like down in the pits.
Yeah. And do you think that that's so that I was like, because no one can know, right? But is that adaptive, or is it like, because it can very often be very dysfunctional, very maladaptive. Very. But is there a time when that is adaptive, or are we? When you give yourself permission to have a break like that, is that dorsal engagement?
I think permission, is dorsal. Or sorry, my permission is ventral. Sorry. Yeah. I think it's adaptive when biologically, like I was in Africa this year and watching animals, I thought I would be really disturbed by watching like lions kill their prey. But you watch them almost choose, but not choose this dorsal state. Like it was kind of blew my mind to watch, there'd be a buffalo or something that would like leave the pack, leave the herd. And the guides are telling us that the ones that are sick or old tend to do that often. And they're kind of just like, we're sacrificial lamb for the rest of the herd. And so sometimes I didn't watch any of the chases. We didn't actually see any chases, but we saw a couple of kills. And so there's this, I think, biological adaptive state. Because when we're shutting down, what are we doing? We're removing the feelings in our outer limbs. We're removing pain. We're not digesting, right? We're slowing things down to go inside to prepare for death. So I think in that state, it's very adaptive. So as a human, if we're in a state like that, if there's something life-threatening going on, possibly, there's some studies about drowning being peaceful. Maybe that's a dorsal state. Never experienced it, obviously, but that's they've talked about. But I think what you said before, like if it's a choice, that's a more of a ventral. I'm choosing to go meditate. I'm choosing to go take a breath. I'm choosing to go ground myself.
I'm choosing to stop worrying about this thing. That's
not dorsal.
Dorsals, I'm worried so much I can't.
Yeah, I've collapsed. Yeah, or depression. Yeah. I'm in this place of depression. And possibly depression could be, I suppose, adaptive for the human state. Let's argue this maybe. To really signal distress to others around you, to yourself and others. Like if you're really in a state of distress, it might be the signal to go, oh, I'm really having this experience, and others around can pay attention. Yeah. Hey, so-and-so hasn't got out of bed for a few days, or so-and-so really is lacking, their usual cues of like hunger or self-care or social or whatever their things are. So maybe it's adaptive that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I often wrestle with that.
Yeah.
And again, depending on your orientation to like how people got to be where they are, like from a more from an evolutionary perspective, it's like that doesn't seem like that would be something that would be selected for, and it might be happy circumstance that it helps us to survive. But, I don't want to be in a dorsal vagal state.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So how do you get out of a dorsal vagal state?
I'm just, thinking out loud here about more dorsal places where, it might be adaptive, someone in a trauma situation, abuse situation, where they can't run, they can't flee, hopeless. Dorsal might be a way of survival, adaptive survival state.
Yeah, if you live in a high emotional home, lots of yelling and screaming, shutting down is like disengaging. Is adaptive. Yeah.
And again, you can look at, your natural responses in situations where you're feeling stress as an adult and go, how does that relate to my earlier experiences? That my go-to, my blueprint tends to be more dorsal or more sympathetic. To be curious about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And ultimately, like, we don't need to really know the whys and wherefores or like what the point of this is, but just know that you're in it, right? And that it's natural that you're there, like it happens.
Yeah.
But how do we move? Like, so if we're in that shutdown state, we've been overwhelmed, life is happening, it's too complex. But I need to attend to things. I have to, whatever success means in your life and the things that you pursue, you want that, and you can't have that if you're shut down.
Yeah.
And so we have to move out of that shutdown state. But how does that work? So you mentioned the ladder earlier. Yeah. Can you jump from dorsal to ventral?
I don't know. I think you go through sympathetic. I do.
I think you have to.
Yeah, I think so too. I go through sympathetic. So I often tell my clients, like, when they're in a dorsal state, or to recognize those states, the simplest things. So I'm a big fan of like gentle movement. I know you're a big fan of breathing. I don't even introduce breathing in dorsal. That'd be more sympathetic for me. Mm-hmm. Be curious what you think about that. But for me, when someone's in a dorsal, like, I'm thinking of people in my office when they've had a dorsal moment where they're shutting down, they're detaching, they're dissociating, right? So I'll get them on the floor. I'll get them in child's pose, or I'll get them to lay on the floor. I'll get them to just, pet my dog or hold a cat. Something where they're just a gentle movement where they're starting to just and I'll be like, just notice the fur. Feel your hands touching that fur. Don't feel your hands touching, your own hands. So the most gentle, bringing them back into their body. Mm-hmm. So looking at like, how do I get their tactile, their sensory experiences back on that, or smell this candle, or taste this water. Mm-hmm. So I'm using the most gentle cues to get them back into here and now. And often, my experience is I can think of one recently. She was having a, almost panic attack was where she was describing, but she came in and she was going dissociative dorsal pretty quick. And so I did put her in child's pose, and then she sat on the floor with my dog for a bit. And then she got anxious. And then she actually did have a bit of a panic attack. So she went from dorsal to panicky. And when she was panicking, I was actually like, oh, here we go. That felt, there's more energy there. Mm-hmm. So that when someone gets in a sympathetic state, for us, it's, I can see energy and aliveness there. And then out of that becomes maybe some anger, which I can use as a driving force.
Absolutely.
To change
it's mobilizing.
It's mobilizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's absolutely. To have a stake in the game. Right?
Yeah.
I need to do something here.
Yeah. Because dorsal, I don't care.
I'm done.
Hopeless, I don't care.
Yeah.
And so I'll get them in that place and get them to somehow get back into sympathetic, which is I care and I'm pissed off. Awesome. Give me anger all day long. Yeah. Give me anxiety.
And if you're anxious, let's solve for the anxiety.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. For sure.
And then we get to do all our fun therapeutic stuff, like probability testing and and understanding where's that particular fear coming from. Because so often
before they get there, before they get there. So when they're in sympathetic with you, what's your go-to interventions? So we have from dorsal, they've moved their body, they're doing some movement, get them back into their skin. Now they're getting more towards sympathetic. What do you use?
Yeah, so if they're, depending, it's like, so breath work is like typically like the easiest thing. And I just kind of do it with them. Let's just sit here, let's just breathe, just like slow the heart.
Yeah.
And then those metabolites that are activating us in that way kind of like lose some of the momentum.
Yeah.
So like heart rate regulation is kind of key. That's why the breathing.
Yeah.
I also in EMDR training, I like, in terms of touch, for me, the most soothing thing is a thing called a ladybug hug.
Yeah.
So you gently interlace your fingers and then very gently in an alternating fashion, press the fingertips of the right into the top of the left hand and alternate, but very gently.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason.
Yeah, it feels nice.
It's
for kids, the butterfly hug. Same thing with your fingertips on
soothing.
your shoulders. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but it's just this very present here in my body, kind of totally in control. I'm not dependent on anything else.
Yeah, paying attention slowly. Yeah. I could do that in dorsal too, actually. Yeah. I think I'd be good one for dorsal as well. And so once they're sympathetic, I think shutdown to sympathetic, there's that little, it's a ladder. So it's not like black and white, rungs. There's space in between. Mm-hmm. So moving from dorsal to sympathetic, where they're starting to get back into their system, starting to see some, engagement in their body. Starting to see maybe some anxiety, some anger coming out, some even questioning.
And I think there too, like, while, and I really endeavor to do this always, is to like, I'm gonna be the anchor in the ventral vagal. Like I'm engaged with you. I have no judgment. I'm here for you. I'm your advocate. I'm safe.
Yeah.
And so I don't mind you being in a sympathetic. I want you to do some work. I want you to explore. I want you to think.
Yeah.
Right. And that needs an energy.
Yeah.
Right. It's not whatever.
Yeah. Just imagine that. So obviously you're a therapist, and so we're trained to do these things. Yeah. But imagine that being your friend, your coworker, your partner. Yeah. Come on, when you're having a sympathetic or having an arousal state that doesn't feel like it's ventral, like it's socially engaged, and your partner goes, "It's okay. I'm just going to hold the space for you, and I'm going to stay anchored in this space and let you kind of go through it." What a safe homecoming experience for you.
Absolutely.
But we don't do that. We go, "Oh, you're there? Well, watch where I'm going to go, and I'm going to put aces on your jacks. Like I'm going to up one." Right?
Yeah. Not or I'm going to fix you. This is not okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make this different for you, and you're going to listen to me.
Right? Worse, which is worse.
Right.
And now we're going to,
Either way, you don't matter.
Right.
And you're making me uncomfortable. Let's change this.
Yes. So we can change that line right now. Your discomfort doesn't affect me. I'm not victim to your state.
Yeah.
I'm not victim to your state. But I see that you're in a state. I believe that you're in a state. I have tons of empathy for that. I believe you. And I'm just going to hold a container of space. I don't have to fix you. Because here's the thing. This is biologically wired into us. So it's biological. I don't got to fix it. I just need to make space. And if you're not a therapist, just make space and do nothing is better than doing something sometimes. And they will regulate themselves. We're wired to regulate. Yeah. We're wired to come back to watch and digest.
And pro tip, right? It's and there's and the key word, if you're going to play like in your partner, if somebody you're with is in a sympathetic state, a key word is curiosity.
Yes.
If you're busy telling people what's what and how it is, right, all you're doing is fostering a resistance and probably a resentment.
Yeah.
What you want is like, you know what? You probably do know, and that's wonderful for you. I love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Be proud that you know.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the first to tell that person in distress.
Yeah. Because it's
let them come up with it.
Yes. Because again, if they're in a nervous system state, so think of like your core of your body, and you're coming at them from logic, like your brain. Logic can't reason, nervous system. You can't logic your way out of a nervous system state. It doesn't work.
No.
If it worked, we wouldn't need therapists. We wouldn't have anxiety. It wouldn't be a thing. So we all know that. It doesn't work. So stop trying.
Yeah.
So trying to logic your way or your partner's way out of a state.
Yeah, or force them to think. Yeah, like so. But if you can use curiosity and ask questions, well, tell me about that. What else do you notice? And right, those kinds of things. Where a person has, like, again, what you're doing is you're creating that sense of safety through connection, and there's like in curiosity, we lose that judgment that is also a big driver of that sympathetic response. Yes. Like I'm not doing this right, and when I'm instructing my dialogue partner about what they're doing wrong, that they're in this state,
I'm more sympathetic. I feel,
but I'm just showing them how they're failing.
Yeah.
It's like they know that,
and
they also know how to succeed.
Yeah.
So if I create that safety and I just ask questions and I let them come up with their own explanation of the problem. I let them come up with their own potential solutions.
Yeah.
Right. And then if I create that space and if I allow that person to talk, they might invite me into that space to share my own perspective.
Right.
But I'm going to wait for them to do that.
Yeah, which is so hard because you're like, but I want to tell you my space.
Even as a therapist, if you're so practiced at this, it's so hard to like let them.
Yeah. Wait, just wait. Like, Stan would always say, let the bus go by. Like, let 10 buses go by. You have all these things to say, but let them go by.
Yeah.
Or let them go by. Yeah. Because that state that they're in is going to perceive whatever story you're going to have in it, like Debbie says. Right? Mm-hmm. And like you said, the curiosity opens the door for my frontal lobes to come back online. If you just remember that one thing from this podcast, I'm going to lead with curiosity. Mm-hmm. The word I use in my office all the time is grace. Grace is this expansive, like, lead with grace. Curiosity is part of grace in my mind of, like, I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to say I know what's happening for you. I'm going to believe what you say is happening for you. I'm going to listen and make a container for you to regulate, because I trust that your body knows what it's doing. Mm-hmm. If I create a container of safety, then again, like you said, you might invite me to come into that space with you. And then all my great ideas I get to share with you. Mm-hmm. But if I just hold and wait and wait and wait, that will show up. Mm-hmm. But we don't. We trump each other. We flood each other.
We're all very proud of what we know.
Say less.
Let me fix you. I'm so smart.
Right.
But the thing is, that's true.
Yes.
Because when your friend or your partner comes to you in crisis, they're experiencing that crisis subjectively.
Yeah.
The reason that you're so smart is because you're not
in it. You're not in it.
You're watching it, and being outside of something and looking at something objectively, of course you're going to have tons of insight. Yeah. But again, you might win the contest of who can say the smart thing first, but that's not helping the situation.
Yeah.
So of course and be happy that you know. Yeah. Let them.
Yeah. Well, the idea of that is, like, it's a bit righteous, right? You can be righteous, or you can be...
Well, certainly to the person, if they're feeling low and you're coming in with all your highfalutin...
Yeah. And the rule of my office couples is, like, if you're righteous, you're going to lose the relationship.
Yep.
You know what I think it's really hard as you're thinking about parenting again? With partners, like with my partner, I can let him a bit more because he's an adult, so I can make a bit of space for him to be in distress, and, hold a container sometimes easier. My kids, though, man, watching them suffer is really hard. Watching them come home with, since they were little, with a situation that caused them distress, I'd rather go, well, I'm going to fix that for you. Mm-hmm. Right? I can think of a situation when my daughter was 2 years old. We were teaching them how to skate. I wasn't. I was watching them because I don't know how to skate. And my son could already skate. He was 4. And the teacher just said, she's going to fall down. Because I was out there with her, helping her with my little boots on. He was like, go to the side and just let her fall down. And I was like, oh, man. And sure enough, I had to let her fall. And she looked at me like, come and get me. And I kind of just, like, broke eye contact and look away. And I watched her little face turn so red and so mad at me to watch her get up, right? So it's that space of, like, I'm going to let her go through this, not try to fix. And that's just one example of 10,000 I could think of in my head. But not fixing your kids. When your teenager comes home with a big emotion about a friend or a teacher or a failed a test or whatever it is, or getting bullied at school, rather than fix their problem, just open your arms and hold them. Mm-hmm. Whatever that looks like for them. Mm-hmm. Lay on the floor with them. Again, cat, dog, tea, water, whatever, like whatever that thing is that they can do to make space of, like, this sounds hard. I see you. Mm-hmm. This is hard. And every time I do that with my kids, even though I feel like I'm not doing enough, inevitably they come back and they're like, thanks, Mom. Mm-hmm. And I want to be like, but I have such good advice to give you. Can I tell you that? And often they're like, no. I'm like, I just want to tell you the things I know.
my daughter's 16.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to know.
And she wants to tell me all the problems. Mm-hmm. And then it remains frustrating because I'm like, I make the good parenting choice. Like, I hear you, honey. Yeah. Do you need to? Can I offer you some perspective on that? No. Nope. I'm like,
really? Are you sure?
Because I'm a psychologist, right? I have
an
lots to
adult,
offer
and I was a teenager once, and I can. Nope. And if you just ask them, their answer often is no.
Yeah.
Until maybe later on, they don't want our advice. They want our comfort.
And later on, that's a really good point. Is that, look, if that person hasn't resolved the issue, there's always later.
And
so if and
like, unless they're on fire, don't put them
right. It's like and it's like the crisis isn't necessarily an emergency.
Yeah, but we think it is because they're hurting.
Yeah.
Right. They failed that test, or that teacher was mean, or that peer was mean, or whatever it was.
Yeah, and sometimes it's because we feel like we have to fix it, and other times we feel like we can fix it.
Yeah.
Again, there's whatever your motivation is to like solve the problem. It's like, give it a minute.
Yeah.
Right. Because that kid may come back later and like. Yeah. Or you have an opportunity to sort of, when they're less emotional. Yeah. But it's kind of like we're still kind of talking about the topic, then you can just, without asking permission, inject. Yeah. Right. As long as they're not in that on the border of sympathetic to dorsal to that shutdown. As long as they're not there, if they're closer to that, like the low end of the sympathetic and close to
ventral,
the tendon befriend and social engagement, there, you can, invite some accountability or personal responsibility for, right? And like, well, no, you actually kind of have to hear this.
Yeah.
Right. But they're in a much different state.
Yeah. So timing is really important. Watching. And again, we're trained to pay attention to this, but if you're just listening, like watching your kids, and most people know their kids pretty good. Like, oh, when their face is a bit red, or they're breathing rapidly, or they're I talk rapidly anyway. So when they're talking rapidly, or they're pacing, or, watching for your kids' signs of when they're sympathetic, and notice if that's not a good time to give them advice.
Mm-hmm.
Ever.
Yeah.
Good time to pause and make space and offer them a container of safety. Connect. And really, again, it's when my kids come back and say thank you, and I'm like, but I didn't even tell you what I wanted to tell you, but there's this moment of like, wow, there was a connection there that I wanted to give them advice, and I created this moment of like, I see you. Which is like, my heart is hurting that you're hurting right now. It's a hard thing to do as a parent, to just make space. I'm like, but I want to talk about that thing that happened at school.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want to. They want to just have a safe container at home where they can just feel their feelings.
Well, and the thing is, it like, kind of like on another side of that too, is that certainly if you pursue the Richard Schwartz stuff, they already know.
Yeah.
They already know. You don't have to actually teach them. They already, and why do they know? Because they've watched you. Yeah. They know how you handle stuff. They watch you over and over. You've modeled that type of behavior. So instructing them using like language and specific rules. Yeah. It's like you're describing strategies that they're already implicitly employing.
Right. Yeah. Probably why they came home to share it with you. They probably saved it to come home to do that. Yeah. So if you offer that for your kids, and again with your partners, when your partners come home, right, and they're in that state, rather than roll your eyes, or rather than let them hijack your systems, and now you're both sympathetic, pause and go, I'm not victim to your state, but I am the steward of our relationship. I'm a steward of this room that we live in, this space that we live in, metaphorical house we live in, and so I'm going to have good stewardship and create big space here for this.
Yeah, I like that stewardship, because it suggests a responsibility towards, but not the construction of, like, you would be the steward of a garden. Say, like it's like you're not responsible for making things grow, but you are there to weed and to sort of keep things. Yeah, to create the container. Yeah, I like that. It gives you kind of like a role too. It's like, I'm not the fixer. Yeah. So it's a skill. I think, we tell our clients this often, and for self included, to be like, what state am I in throughout the day? Just to have a little, if you're new to this Polyvagal Theory, new to like your nervous system, paying attention to it, just set an alarm on your phone once an hour if you can, or even twice a day if you can, and just go, what state am I in right now? Like right now, we're both a little sympathetic. We're engaged. We're sympathetic ventral right now, both of us. We're engaged. We're paying attention, but there's a little bit of like, hyper arousal, hyper attention. Probably. Where does it show up in your body?
Yeah, chest.
Okay.
Yeah. Whenever I'm a little bit hyper aroused, I can feel it in my chest first. Chest and throat, because that day when I didn't introduce myself, my throat went really squeaky. I could feel it like collapsing in my throat. How about you?
Jaw.
Ah, interesting.
I clench. But that's a very like waiting for impact kind of thing, right? It's like, so that's early toning. Yeah, like,
very, very young.
Because like in my life, and I've always been a clencher, and a grinder, right? And
makes sense.
And I can look back throughout my life and say, well, there's nothing that's really threatening to me, so why am I in a state of stress? Mm-hmm. Well, when I was a little boy, I never landed anywhere. My father was in the military. We every 3 years we were off somewhere, right? And so like, I had to learn a new language before I was 10. Right. So it's a lot of so there's a lot of like, what's this? Kind of anticipating. Right. And so
that makes sense. It's interesting.
So that's where I'm, and I would say too, in my teenage years, like I've really had to work on my posture, because that forward, that hunched posture is similarly like I'm ready to take a beating. Right. Someone's going to whip me or hit me from behind, right? Rather than, right. So, and I think that where that early life experience kind of sets you up and prepares you for that arousal state. So I noticed like when I check in on myself and what my own state is, it's like that's the first thing that I kind of notice, and so
unlock
spend
your
a
jaw.
lot of time trying to relax those muscles.
Yeah.
And so then there's a bunch of stuff that I do specifically for that.
For your jaw.
Lots of massage and
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So as a listener, just noticing your body and where is it your fist? Like, where do you go to first when you're starting to get a little bit sympathetic? So that you can, because ideally, if you want to master this skill, because it's a skill, it really is a skill. It is a master, one of those, mastery skills. It's a hard skill to learn and to master. I think we're all in the process of learning it through our lifetimes, actually. But to pay attention to your body, to know if I'm scanning my body on a regular basis, I kind of know when it's a little bit different, when it's a little bit off. And is it just hunger? What's happening? Or am I a little bit aroused? Like, what's happening in my system that's causing, or what's happening first in my body first, rather than what's causing it, what's happening, and can I just take care of it? And then look outside. Because if it's literally life-threatening, if there's literally a lion chasing us metaphorically, our body's going to react without asking permission. It's going to take care of us, right?
Yeah.
But humans walk around with lions chasing us when there's no lions.
Yeah.
We carry all of the memories, the experiences from our past, and we walk around with metaphorical lions in our nervous system, right? Body keeps score, Bessel van der Kolk's work, all the time. And so checking in and going, can I be right in this room right now and notice I'm having a little bit of hyperarousal? Curious. And can I just be open to that? And then do whatever techniques, if it's breathing or jaw massage or playing with a cat, whatever techniques.
Yeah, this is a good indicator that
Right?
either that I'm chill or that the cat's taking care of me.
Right? As a cat crawls in your lap as we're talking. Any final thoughts for clients of things that you, listeners and clients that you use? Interventions you use?
So then I think like one of the things that I think is really important, and I do encourage this with a lot of people, introducing very mild stressors can help shape and retone your nervous system, so that so like a couple of things that I do, and not necessarily that people have to do these things, but a couple of things that I do that help me to tolerate a variety of states and experiences. And so I do a lot of hot yoga.
Yeah.
So the heat, right? I expose myself to that heat. It's like, it's not going to kill me, but it's not comfortable.
Right.
But if I'm in that heat for 75 minutes or 90 minutes, and I do that regularly, it's like, well, suddenly I'm adapting.
Yeah.
It's not as right. I also do cold exposure. Right? I like to submerge myself in chilly water.
Yeah.
And try to regulate my breathing in that state. And those are pretty extreme. Those are
You can make it not as cold and not as hot.
Right.
You want to start somewhere, start gentle.
But that's, if you can even turn your shower at the end of your shower, like to tepid or cold, and just endure that for a minute, you're teaching your body what you can take.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed, though, especially through the cold exposure, is that there's not a lot in the world that will elevate me into an arousal state, just because I'm so used to like that discomfort.
Yeah. And you're also utilizing a tool. I'm sure you're doing a different breathing technique when it's cold than when it's warm.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. That's what I've learned in submerging myself in cold water, is that it didn't start that way, but I can regulate my breathing in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just to be able to endure. But that skill carries forward.
Yeah, for sure.
So like fasting, fasting, and you don't have to go like 4 days without eating, but extend your your break between meals. Yeah. Right? It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? You get
so
hunger
some kind
pangs.
of discomfort. Yeah,
but then it's like, okay, I can manage that, and that's okay. And it's like, and a hunger pang, that's the expression of a hormone called ghrelin. It doesn't tell you that you need to eat. It just tells you this is when I eat. Yeah. Right? And if you know what that is, and that it hurts when it hurts me when it comes up. Yeah. But if I know what it is, and so I drink some water. Yeah. And it goes away.
Tell the gremlin I'm good.
Yeah, right. And so, so those are some of the things that you can do in the long term that help, that sort of expand your window of tolerance and make you less susceptible to stressors.
Yeah, good idea.
Right? Yeah. But then there's lots of other things like, again, back to the breathing, mild massage. I just saw a video and the guy was saying very lightly massaging your neck around your aorta and carotid artery. That if you just gently massage there for like a minute or two, that helps with vagal toning. Yeah. Right.
Even like sitting still and staring at a wall, because your body's gonna want to get up. You can have all the cues to like, this is boring, or what am I looking at, or I gotta pee, or I'm thirsty, or sitting, just kind of making yourself sit still and stare at nothing for a second. With our fast pace, look at everything, distracted mind. For me, that's a good one. Just like look at a wall for a sec. Or
in that sitting still, one of the things that I do is I have a little spot that I go on when I walk my dog.
Yeah.
And I just sit and I try to meditate.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at it.
Yeah.
Right.
Meditation for me, I love because I can like dive into the meditation, whether it's music, binary beats, but just sitting still, looking at a wall with no meditation, with just being present to like a blank wall is something new I'm trying.
Yeah.
And my brain kind of goes, what are we doing? Yeah. Why we're not meditating. We're not having a spiritual experience. We're not listening to binary. We're not doing, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And so I have to work through all that discomfort of like all the urges to want to put on music or want to start to do meditation. We're just going to be present and stare at this nothing wall. Yeah.
You know what would be another good thing as I'm looking at your eyes right now? Like you and I are both very good. Like we are maintaining eye contact right now.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
Right. But for most people, most general conversation, people have to flit their eyes away within every like 3 to 5 seconds. Yeah. Right. Because otherwise it's awkward.
Yeah. So with my couples, I do this all the time. Yeah. I do lots of crazy things with my couples. People that come to see me, they know this. So, that's most of my clientele. So I'm going to have them regulate by doing eye contact almost all the time. And I want to see how long they can maintain it before they look away. And I also want to see what happens when they look away. Do they breathe? Do they get more tense? What does the partner do? What are all those interactions? Mm-hmm. And then lots of state changes. Yeah. So lay on the floor, sit in your partner's lap, put your head in your partner's lap, right? Move around the room, turn your back to your partner. So I'm doing all kinds of state things to start to co-regulate the system, to watch what regulates each other's bodies. And I'm teaching them to pay attention to their partner too in real time, to go, did you see what just happened there? Mm-hmm. Did you see what happened with yourself and what happened with them when you did that thing? Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's unlimited, I think, tools. So you can pick and choose your own tools that work for you as an individual, as a couple, of what works for you. Yeah. But for me, my take home is, again, with couples is like state pursuit story. So do not engage in a story or try to resolve content ever when someone's in a dysregulated state. You're never going to resolve it. What you're going to do is you're going to start to amplify memories that aren't necessarily true. You're going to start to layer and stack bad experiences, bad memories based on this here and now experience, rather than repair and connect.
Well, and I would go further and predict that the frustrations experienced when a person isn't sort of responding to content in the way that you want, right? It's like from both parties, you're gonna like those typical patterns that get you into trouble every time, and you're gonna bring up the same old crap from all the other times
because it wasn't resolved.
And again, it's not about like you might be referring back to another content moment. Yeah. But really, it's the power differential, power struggle that you're in.
Yeah, because it's the same state I felt. Yeah. This thing feels familiar as when you did that thing last time. That thing, different content, the same state I'm in.
8 years ago when you did that thing.
Right. So if you're doing that, people do that, right? Again, humans bring back memories from 8 years ago. Or if I'm carrying something from like you have a cat in your lap. If I said to that cat, remember 8 years ago, he'd be like, "What are you talking about? I remember right here, right now." Yeah. Like animals don't hang on to their stress. They have a stress. Animals have stress too. Things chase him. He fights with coyotes, this little guy you're holding. Yeah. And then he gets back in the house and he meows and I take care of his little wounds and he's fine. Yeah. So we carry our stress. So if we can pause and go, okay, I'm going to repair that and then leave it. I'm not going to bring that to every conversation, every experience in my body. Mm-hmm. So that's my take home was like state pursuit stories. So check your state. Check your state first and you're responsible for your own state unless you're a child. Yeah. And not like you do it by yourself. You can co-regulate. If you need someone to help with your state, find a co-regulator. A person that you can look in their eyes, an animal that you can pet, right? A tree you can hug. Like, there's lots of things you can co-regulate with, maybe by yourself, but still reach out and regulate your system before you deal with any content.
And if implied here is in that tend and befriend or that ventral vagal state is that we need another person, and you and I both know that, especially for the listeners too who kind of connect with that parts perspective. Yeah, it's like you can do the same thing with your parts, and your 100%. Parts will keep you in that sympathetic state. They have a job to do, and they're going to be they're activated, they're attentive, they're doing. And when self shows up, right, I think you can reach that border of like that because I'm tending and befriending the parts.
This part, that's having a sympathetic, which is complex because you feel it in your body either way, and so you're like, this part's causing my body to feel this way. How can I stay regulated?
But I think as soon as you invite self in, that is moving to that ventral.
It is moving, because curiosity. Yeah. So your key here is curiosity. Yeah. If you're in curiosity, you're heading towards ventral.
It's been my favorite word for about 5 years.
And observe. You like observe as well.
Yeah. Notice.
Be curious. Notice. Yeah, and be curious. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for talking today. Appreciate it.
That's great.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard today, make sure to share, subscribe, and like our channel. or better yet, share our podcast with others. We'll see you next time.
This has been a Bread Dog Studios production.